You've heard it 1,000 times. Stop overthinking. Just let it go. But let's be honest, if it were that easy, you wouldn't be watching this right now. Overthinking isn't about being too analytical or too emotional. It's a survival strategy gone rogue. Your brain is desperately chasing control to ease anxiety. But the harder it chases, the more trapped you feel. The sleepless nights, the racing thoughts, the endless what-ifs, they're not flaws. They're symptoms of a system designed to protect you, but failing miserably. Now, here's where most advice falls flat. They tell you to think positive, breathe deeply, or distract yourself. That's like trying to calm a hurricane by whispering at it. What you really need is to dismantle the entire mechanism that feeds your overthinking. And that's exactly what we're about to do. As we break this down step by step, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because this is just one of many insights that will completely shift how you handle your mind. You'll finally see why overthinking isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. If you dare to listen. The mind has a special talent for creating labyrinths that it can't get out of. This is how overthinking is born. An endless cycle of questions, hypotheses, and scenarios that never come true. And, curiously, those who suffer the most from it are precisely those who want everything under control. The perfectionists, the born problem solvers. It's like trying to predict the weather every day for the next 10 years. Impossible. And the more they try to predict, the more anxiety they feed. Imagine someone about to give an important presentation. The night before, instead of resting, their mind goes into overdrive. What if I forget something? What if they don't like it? What if... This logical rumination doesn't bring solutions. It only increases tension. And the more you seek absolute control, the more your body responds with symptoms. Sweating, insomnia, tachycardia. It's at this point that the cycle becomes vicious, and control becomes a tyrant disguised as security. Now here comes the curious point. Many of these people believe that this overthinking is a sign of intelligence, as if anticipating every scenario were a virtue. However, in practice, this overplanning only generates mental fatigue and weakens the emotional state. The mind, saturated with so many possibilities, begins to turn every small challenge into a potential catastrophe. And that's precisely where the illusion we're going to explore next arises. The brain loves to play fortune teller. It constantly scans for threats, simulating endless what-if scenarios, convinced that predicting the future will somehow prevent pain. But here's the catch. This desperate hunt for certainty only feeds the anxiety. Every unpredictable detail becomes a new obsession. Suddenly, small uncertainties feel like ticking time bombs, driving people deeper into the grip of overthinking. Consider someone obsessing over a potential job interview. They replay every possible question, every awkward silence, every imaginable outcome. Instead of preparing calmly, they spiral into analysis paralysis, convinced that controlling every variable will calm their nerves. But ironically, this control becomes a fuel source for their anxiety. The more they try to control, the less control they actually have. And while the mind fixates on these unpredictable details, other crucial areas quietly crumble. Health gets neglected, relationships strain, sleep becomes a rare luxury. The illusion of control becomes a full-time job, yet offers zero job security. And as this imbalance grows, it quietly sets the stage for the deeper identity struggles we'll dive into next. He used to obsess over something as simple as his height. Are people judging me because I'm not tall enough? This internal dialogue played like a broken record. It wasn't really about height, it was about identity. How others saw him became the lens through which he measured his own worth. And like most overthinking traps, this one was fueled by control and anxiety. We all carry versions of this, don't we? Whether it's appearance, career status, or social approval, people create mental scoreboards. The fear isn't failing, it's others seeing them fail. That's the real monster under the bed. And as long as external validation defines success, overthinking stays firmly in the driver's seat, whispering doubts with every decision. He recalls skipping social events just to avoid potential judgment. What if I say something stupid? What if I don't fit in? The mind paints worst-case scenarios that rarely happen, yet still dictate behavior. Meditation could have offered him perspective, but back then, anxiety had full control, clouding any chance of stillness or clarity. And that's where things get dangerous. This tangled identity creates a fragile sense of self, one that's terrified of any crack or failure. But what if failure wasn't the enemy? What if letting go of that rigid image could actually bring peace? We're about to confront that radical idea in the next step. Most people treat failure like a fatal disease, something to be feared, avoided, and silenced. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Failure is one of life's best teachers. The problem is control. People try to engineer perfect outcomes, leaving no room for mistakes. But in doing so, they starve themselves of growth. Failure, when embraced, dismantles overthinking piece by piece. Imagine launching a new business. If your identity is tied to its success, every minor setback feels like a personal attack. But when you detach and see failure as feedback, anxiety loses its grip. The failed marketing campaign, a lesson in messaging. The financial loss, a masterclass in resource management. Every stumble becomes an upgrade, not a defeat. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means freeing yourself from the emotional roller coaster of outcomes. You still care, but you're not enslaved by the result. Meditation plays a powerful role here, anchoring you in the present, helping separate emotion from fact. As you cultivate this skill, overthinking has fewer cracks to slip through, and when people start seeing failure as an ally, their resilience skyrockets. Suddenly, the fear of what if shrinks. Anxiety finds itself unemployed. But how exactly do you train that kind of emotional muscle? That's where we step into the world of meditation and relaxation techniques next. Meditation isn't some mystical practice reserved for monks on mountaintops. It's a practical tool, especially for those drowning in overthinking and anxiety. Feeling meditation, in particular, invites people to sit with their emotions, not fight them. By observing sensations without judgment, they start untangling the control they've tried so hard to maintain. Take the simple act of focusing on breath. When anxiety spikes, most people instinctively tighten up, trying to think their way out of panic. Instead, by tuning into the breath, the rise and fall of the chest, the coolness of inhalation, they reclaim control in the moment, not the future. That shift breaks the endless thought spiral. And then there's the power of binaural beats. Playing alpha wave frequencies while meditating can fast-track the relaxation response. Imagine lying in a dark room, headphones on, gentle pulses guiding your brain into calm states. Overthinking slows down. The relentless mental chatter softens, making space for actual clarity. These techniques aren't magical. They're skills, and like any skill, consistency breeds mastery. The more people practice separating thought from emotion, the less power anxiety holds. But even with these tools, there's another beast we need to address, the cycle of and that's exactly where we're headed next. Catastrophizing is like giving anxiety a megaphone. Every small problem gets amplified into an impending disaster. The mind loves to leap from "what if I lose my job" to "I'll end up homeless." This exaggerated thinking feeds overthinking and steals any sense of control. But ironically, real strength comes from recognizing how irrational these spirals truly are. Think of someone receiving a minor health scare. Before even getting the full diagnosis, their mind paints scenes of surgeries, financial ruin, and lifelong suffering. Yet, most of the time, reality turns out far less dramatic. The key is resilience, the ability to pause, breathe, and separate facts from mental fiction. Meditation helps build that pause. Practical exercises can short-circuit this cycle. One powerful tool, the worst-case scenario drill. Write down the absolute worst outcome. Then, list all the steps you could take if that unlikely event happened. Often, people realize they're far more resourceful than anxiety allows them to believe. Suddenly, the fear loses its bite. Humans are far more adaptable than they give themselves credit for. History is filled with people who faced unthinkable setbacks and still thrived. But to truly break free, they need more than logic. They need self-awareness without judgment. And that brings us directly to the next vital piece. One of the sneakiest fuels for overthinking is self-judgment. Every time the mind labels a thought as bad or weak, it gives anxiety more ammunition. Non-judgmental self-observation flips the script. Instead of wrestling with thoughts, people simply watch them pass by like clouds, drifting across the sky without grabbing onto any of them. Picture someone catching themselves thinking, "I always screw things up." In the past, they might spiral. "Why do I always think this way? What's wrong with me?" But through non-judgmental observation, they acknowledge the thought. There's that self-doubt again, and let it float away. No fight, no shame, just awareness. Reducing judgment towards others works the same magic. Toxic interactions often trigger overthinking. Learning v. Intelligent MIT toxician mention omjna. How to intelligently deal with toxic people means detaching from their drama. You observe their behavior, set boundaries, and refuse to internalize their chaos. Journaling can also support this practice. By writing thoughts down, people externalize their worries instead of carrying them like emotional baggage. A daily 5-minute reflection helps track recurring patterns without judgment, creating a roadmap for change. Over time, self sharpens and the grip of anxiety weakens, but observation alone isn't enough. Communication, the way we clarify misunderstandings, plays a crucial role in dismantling overthinking, and that's the next step we'll explore together. Overthinking often thrives on assumptions. When people avoid open conversations, their minds fill in the gaps with worst-case scenarios. Did she ignore my message because she's mad at me? The brain invents stories in the absence of clarity, handing even more power to anxiety. Clear, honest communication disarms these imagined threats. Take relationships, for example. Instead of silently stewing over a partner's tone or a friend's delayed reply, asking simple, direct questions dissolves the uncertainty. Hey, I noticed you were quiet earlier. Everything okay? This kind of open dialogue cuts through overthinking before it builds its usual mountain out of a molehill. Self-inquiry is just as powerful. When anxiety kicks in, asking oneself grounded questions like, is this thought absolutely true? What evidence do I have? Creates a gap between emotion and reality. It's not about forcing positivity, it's about challenging the automatic, catastrophic narratives the mind loves to create. Daily journaling serves as a mirror for this process. Writing down fears, followed by these self-inquiry questions, helps people see how often their overthinking isn't rooted in facts. Over time, this habit transforms the way they interpret challenges, breaking the grip of control that feeds anxiety. Still, even with better communication and self-inquiry, many anxieties remain tied to everyday worries that don't actually matter. That's where adopting a lighter, more freeing perspective becomes the next crucial piece of this puzzle. One of the simplest, yet most liberating tools to fight overthinking is adopting the doesn't matter mantra. So much anxiety comes from assigning enormous importance to things that, in the grand scheme, barely register. That awkward comment at lunch, the delayed email response, most of it truly doesn't matter. Repeating this mantra rewires the brain to let go. Imagine someone stuck in traffic, panicking about being 5 minutes late. The old mindset turns this into a catastrophe. They'll think I'm unreliable. But with the doesn't matter mantra, the tension fades. I'll explain when I arrive. Life goes on. This lightness transforms daily irritations into non-events, starving anxiety of its favorite fuel. It's not about becoming careless, it's about wisely choosing what deserves emotional energy. Meditation reinforces this detachment by training the mind to release attachments to minor outcomes. The more people practice, the more natural it feels to shrug off small frustrations and maintain inner peace. V. Intelligent MIT toxician mention umgenin also becomes easier under this mindset. Toxic people thrive on reactions. When you adopt doesn't matter, you rob them of the drama they crave. Suddenly, their manipulations lose their sting, and control shifts back to you. And with this lighter approach, life doesn't just get easier, it becomes richer. But this is only the beginning, because now that you understand the full architecture behind overthinking, there's one last powerful insight that ties everything together. Now that you've seen what's really happening behind your the question is simple. What are you going to do with this? Are you willing to challenge your need for control? To sit with your anxiety instead of fighting it? Or will you keep feeding the cycle that's been silently running your life? Imagine how different your days could feel if you stopped chasing perfection, stopped rehearsing disasters that never happen, and finally allowed yourself to breathe. What would change if you trusted your ability to handle whatever comes without needing to predict every possible outcome? I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What's the one area in your life where overthinking steals your peace the most? Let's build this conversation together, because you're not alone in this. And if this opened your eyes even a little, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There's a whole world of untold strategies waiting for you and we're just getting started.